We always talk about wealth building, but I have a special guest who is extremely important to the dynamics of wealth building.
And we
Sarah-
run the Relentless Marriage and Relationship Center. And so we work with marriages in all stages of life.
So I
and
want you to tell me what's the ideal setup, how the pre-marriage counseling should be. Do you guys talk anything about wealth building at all? Do you talk about life planning at all? Can you run me through what's the ideal setup? Do couples need to talk about money, or one of them should take a lead with the money? What's the setup?
Yeah.
Coming to selling the home and the price that they were selling for, the husband was extremely dominating when it came to that aspect. So is your experience that men tend to have better grip on their finances, like the family finances, than the women?
Yeah.
So one call to action that I take from Chad, very significant call to action, is every adult in the family has to actively participate in the wealth creation. Call to action for the audience that you have to actively know where the finances are, the budget, access to all the accounts, and where the investments are, and how the deeds are there, and all that, right? Coming from India, a lot of them are arranged marriages. I didn't go through the arranged marriage, but a lot of my cousins and my family, they are all arranged marriages. Hi guys, welcome to the channel. We always talk about wealth building, but I have a special guest who is extremely important to the dynamics of wealth building. Sarah, please introduce yourself and tell me about you guys, the company that you run.
All right. My name is Sarah-Gayle, and this is my husband, Kiran, and we run the Relentless Marriage and Relationship Center. And so we work with marriages in all stages of life, and we help them to grow in connection and also develop skills and practical ways of living that can help them to flourish.
Sarah, as part of wealth building, right? I know I've serviced some of the couples who are separating, and the amount of stress is like enormous. I want to work backwards. Like you guys also do pre-marriage counseling. So I want you to tell me what's the ideal setup, how the pre-marriage counseling should be. Do you guys talk anything about wealth building at all? Do you talk about life planning at all? Can you run me through what's the ideal setup should be?
Yeah, I think when it comes to wealth building and marriage or pre-marriage, there's a dynamic of, there's great places to go for how to generate wealth. Part of what we would do is work with couples around creating unity, right? It's not just what is the topic, but how do you talk about the topic together? How do you create agreement? How do you create unity? How do you create a vision that both people are excited about and engaged in? So that would be part of the framework that would exist in a premarital, or if somebody's already married, it'd be, how do we talk about this topic together?
And in a lot of cultures, like I'm from India, we rarely talked about money as a family. We just said, okay, dad used to say whether we can afford it or we can't afford it. We never used to challenge, okay, how much money we have or how much net worth we have, or we never even talked about investments.
Right.
In marriage, is it the same for all couples? Because me and my wife, we met as at the university, and we always had total sync with finances. So it was never a problem. Plus my wife never pays attention to the money at all.
Okay.
Like my complaint is I want her to start paying attention to money.
This is why we're doing this.
Yes. So my question to you guys is, do couples need to talk about money, or one of them should take a lead with the money? What's the setup?
Yeah. Well, I would say that I think couples definitely need to talk about money, because money is significant. We were talking about this earlier, we could either put our head in the sand and be ostriches when it comes to finances, but the reality is that money is a leading indicator, finances in general is a leading indicator for divorce. And so there might be one that is stronger as far as their dynamic and their skill set with handling money, but it still remains that when both spouses are in agreement, that's going to be the most beneficial and productive relationship.
You said money is the number one for divorce?
It's up there, one of the top three. It might be the number one at this point. Infidelity is up there as well, but money definitely is huge.
Yeah, I can imagine, because money brings many evils, they say, right?
Mhm.
But with relationships, at least I want to draw my experience from couple of homes that we sold wherein they were separating.
Yeah.
And one couple was very amicable, in the sense that they are like, okay, we are going to split as friends, we are going to stay as friends. But when it's coming to selling the home, and the price that they were selling for, the husband was extremely dominating when it came to that aspect.
Mhm.
So, is your experience that men tend to have better grip on their finances, like the family finances, than the women?
I think as a generalization, that can be true. I mean, I think historically men have been more traditionally the breadwinners. So they're might be more involved with the money that's coming in, maybe more consistently take on the role of paying the mortgage, the cars, bank loans, any of those dynamics. But like for me, actually, my mom was the primary breadwinner in our house. Both of my parents were successful and built different businesses, but my mom actually made more money than my dad. And so you can have situations where that is flipped. And so I think one of the things that we talk about just in the concept of marriage is for couples to explore the family of origin. Our family of origin plays a significant role in shaping our perspective.
Mhm.
So if you want to come back into the conversation of wealth creation and marriage, exploring how similar or how different was the family of origin of the couple that's involved. Did one family grow up in an environment where it was ruled by scarcity, ruled by fear, ruled by lack? That's going to impact that person and how they show up around money. Was somebody else growing up in a home that was abundance focused? That's going to shape some of their perspective. And so when it gets to marriage and wealth creation, it's such an important topic because it touches every area of our life.
Mhm.
The car I drive. Well, how much money is available for that car? The school our kids go to, the clothes we wear, the vacations we go on to, the food. The pendulum can swing to poverty up to significant wealth. Regardless of where on that pendulum, money plays a part in our day to day. And so for a marriage to not talk about it at all, that's a significant area around the family that is kind of ignored or swept under the rug, or just there's a deeper level of connection and purpose that marriage, that family could experience if they lean into marriage, if they lean into wealth creation, and how they can both play a significant part of that process.
Yeah.
So, one call to action that I take from Chad, very significant call to action, is every adult in the family has to actively participate in the wealth creation. And as part of it, the first step is they have to be aware as to where the dollar is going, and they have to be totally aware, because I'm big into life insurance myself, right? I always think about I always think about, what if I don't wake up tomorrow?
Mm.
How is my family taken care of, right? It gives me a lot of assurance as a man that, okay, if something happens to me, my family is well taken care of. Financially, they know exactly where to go get the password for my
Right.
bank account. It
Yeah.
starts from there, like the level of detail. And I document everything. And sometimes I just suddenly wake up in the night thinking that I'm gone and my wife is scrambling for it. So because I'm so obsessive about this particular aspect, and I've seen people go through this firsthand.
Mhm.
So that is the first call to action for the audience, that you have to actively know where the finances are, the budget, access to all the accounts, and where the investments are, and how the deeds are there, and all that, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think you're sharing that creates stress for you, and so when your family is aware of that, that can allow you to relax a little bit, right? If something happens, there's already tragedy that the family is going to experience, trauma. Let's not confound that pain by not knowing how to get access to things.
Right.
Yeah.
And then maybe for the spouse that is less inclined to be engaged with the resources, that can help them get peace of mind that maybe then they're not a part of the day to day, but there should be an awareness and an understanding of how are we doing?
How are we doing?
How are we doing? Where can I get access to things? I think about as individuals, and really a marriage is made up of two individuals. Almost, it's a partnership. It's almost like a business, right? There's this entity that is now the marriage and the family. How both people show up and contribute elevates that business or elevates that marriage or relationship. If as an individual, I have a couple things I can bring. I can bring my words, how I speak about something, and I can bring my resources, money, finances. It would be peculiar for a spouse to not know where you are, right? They might not know where you are at every moment, but in general, if somebody say, hey, what does your spouse do? I have no idea.
Yeah.
Where were they last week? I have no idea.
Yes.
Right? If they were to say, it would be peculiar to not know what your spouse sounds like. With the type of words or the tone that they speak with. That would be odd. Yet there are times where we get to money and somebody just completely disengages. But that's one of the primary tools as people that we have to create a legacy, to contribute to our family, to contribute to our communities, to contribute to society on a whole.
Right.
So I think when we're talking about marriage and wealth creation, like money is a significant tool that is at our disposal to impact our community in a way that is meaningful to us. And so I think the opportunity hopefully can kind of stir a passion in people who've maybe sat on the sidelines to get a little bit more involved. We talked about, you and your wife are college sweethearts. We're college sweethearts. We went to UCLA. I remember taking classes in Royce Hall. That's named after a family. There was a family who part of their legacy was to donate significant resources to an institution. And now their name is on that building like forever, right? And so that's an opportunity as a family. So when you think about a marriage and wealth creation, there's just some amazing things that two people together in agreement can accomplish. And I think that hopefully can create some excitement.
It still doesn't answer my question in my mind. Okay, in our YouTube channel, we are talking about entrepreneurship. We are talking about real estate investments.
Yep.
Wealth creation. 92% of my audience is men.
Okay.
I don't know why women are not being attracted to the channel. Granted, it's how I look. That could be one factor. But still, there is an imbalance between why women are not getting educated on all these different vehicles of wealth creation.
Yeah.
So now I wanted to jump into the second part of my questions is with the communication and the counseling setup. Coming from India, a lot of them are arranged marriages. I didn't go through the arranged marriage, but a lot of my cousins and my family, they're all arranged marriages. And in that, just to bring you up to speed, usually what they do is the priests, they match up the birth star first, and then they look at the family background on both sides, and they try to make it at least a tandem or at par, or they're almost at the same level.
Okay.
So that there will not be any ego clashes in terms of family background and family values and family thoughts. And then they take it to the next level. They go back 7 generations to see if everything was fine, or they try to go into the genealogy and then they try to match. And if there is some imbalance, then they are going to just fall apart and say, we are not going to go through. Even though the potential bride and groom like each other, still marriages are just voided before they happen. Where the therapy setup is, your family is your therapy. We don't know. I'm not aware of any marriage therapists in India when I came. I came here almost 23 years ago. So maybe there are now.
Yeah.
But I don't remember seeing them. So the stress point and the question that is leading to is lot of young couples are coming from India here. Their marriages are arranged.
Yeah.
Let's say the guy is here and the girl is from India, and the girl is coming here by herself. She's married off. She doesn't know anything about finances, about communication. The only way she's communicating is through phones and video chat. They're going through a lot of stress about it.
Yeah.
So my question is, how do we make your services available to them? Because I know they are going through a lot of stress. They don't know whom to talk to confidentially.
Yeah.
So how can you guys help them?
Well, first I want to say that the arranged marriage process seems more intentional than many people have to go through when it comes to getting married in general.
Yeah.
A lot of us are like, oh, you're handsome. Let's go. Let's
Yeah.
do this thing. And so, but in general, I think, the perception of counseling and getting help for your marriage is something that's a little strange for many cultures. And I think that it's part of it is changing our mindset around it and welcoming that outside help, because it's wisdom and we don't know everything. We could be excellent and professionals in one area like finances, but when it comes to relationship, it might not follow that we are experts in that as well. So I want to come back to this, and maybe you'll add to this, but I want to address the lady side of it. And I know it's stereotypical, but when it comes to women and finances, a lot of times we don't have the same skill because, culturally speaking, we might have been raised to value something different, like how we look or how helpful we are, our cooking, our child rearing. That might be something that we more pride ourselves on. And so it does require a shift again in our mindset for the ladies, because we are able to learn whatever we put our mind to.
Yeah.
But with the husbands, it is helpful, if most of you watching are men, it is helpful to just invite your wife to be a part of it. And part of how you do that is you speak to her potential, you speak to what you see in her, because just like what Chad said, that UCLA building, Royce Hall, that's named after a family, that's a family endeavor to do big things. And so you two are greater than one in the sense of what Chad has, his resources, his brilliant mind, and then my brilliant mind and what I have, when we come together, then that is dynamite. Whereas on his own, he's incredible. But wow, imagine if I believe as a woman that I have something to contribute as well. And so I think as the men invite the women, then it's going to be more likely for her to learn and to realize, oh, it's not just him. It's not just his show. We're in this together.
No, that's good. Before you answer the original question, I also want to think that the men not only should learn about it,
Mm-hmm.
and that should be their dinner table conversation, just like how they plan vacations together.
Yeah.
And man is not going to just plan the vacation and just not say anything
Yeah.
about it, right?
Yeah.
Right.
So going to the finances and say, okay, this is what I want to cover. And it can't be like a long YouTube video. It needs to be like a YouTube short. In the sense, in 30 seconds, 60 seconds, he needs to be able to summarize what he's learning from all these platforms
Mm-hmm.
and then give a dump to the wife and then say, this is what it is. This is where we are focusing on.
Right.
Yeah, and I think in that, it's going to be a journey. It's going to be a process, right? If I wanted to become a doctor, I'm going to go to undergrad. Then I'm going to get there's a journey. You're not going to go from, I want to be a doctor to tomorrow I'm performing brain surgery, right? So if you're watching and you have a spouse that isn't involved in the finances at all, it's going to be a process. You're not just going to wait, I want you involved, and tomorrow they're
Spouse is like,
Yeah.
it's gonna be a process. As long as there's kind of a step at a time and moving forward, then that can be something that can be celebrated and then demonstrate some patience of knowing, hey, we're going where we want to go. It's going to take a little bit of time to get there.
Right. And then talking about the challenges for arranged marriages when the wives are coming here by themselves,
Mhm.
just the lack of resources is kind of troubling. And especially when they choose to separate, that's where the wife is in a big disadvantage.
Mm-hmm.
I'll tell you another example of one that I recently experienced. They walked away from almost $150,000 of equity built into the home. They signed up for the home just after COVID. As a family, they wanted to buy it. And then after 2 years, they had differences.
Mhm.
By the time the builder has raised the price by 150,000.
Mm-hmm.
And then the wife didn't want the husband to buy it.
Mm-hmm.
But the husband was qualified to buy it by himself.
Yeah.
Arizona being a community property state, both of them have to agree to buy.
Yeah.
And the wife said, I don't want you to buy. And they walked away from 150,000.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I had to replace that client with somebody else, and the builder made 150,000 more.
Yeah.
So the family estate got destroyed with lack of awareness as to what they are walking out from.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm appalled that, okay, granted you have emotional differences, but financially, you should treat it like a family estate as a business wherein you are partners. You cannot let the company go down because you have kids involved and it's their money in some way.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, I think you're painting a very clear story of the opportunity or the cost of both people not engaging in some level of financial literacy. In this family's example, it cost $150,000, right? And so I think even for if this is predominantly a male crowd, like that's start inviting your wife to the table and begin that process so that down the road they don't find themselves in a similar situation where they see an opportunity but their spouse is like, concerned about that. It's easier to have agreement and unity when there's been multiple conversations leading up to something. That's something, had they maybe started before, that situation maybe could have been avoided.
And also another cultural difference is we used to have here in our YouTube channel, if you follow, I always tell about the pillars of professionals you always need to have. You need to have a good real estate broker. You need to have a good mortgage guy. You need to have a good CPA, good attorney. People, the pillars that you trust, that you go to. And that is also a contrast from where the culture I'm from. Usually we rely on our friends or relatives or somebody, like one person. That guy probably has no clue about how finances are done or how real estate is being done and how marriage has to be worked out. And then I feel among those pillars, having this marriage counselor, even if you don't call him marriage counselor, like just an emotional counselor, so that people know, okay, in case of a conflict of something, instead of you being angry on your spouse, you need to be able to come out and talk to somebody.
Right.
And then put out the pros and cons and let you guys comment on it. Right now, there is no platform for anybody like that.
Yeah, it's extremely beneficial. And just to put in perspective, imagine you are this financial guy, CPA perhaps, and then a school teacher comes up to you and says, hey, like this is what you need to do in business, in your finance business. This is exactly what you need to do. Yet they don't have any formal training. It's just their opinion. And so a lot of times when it comes to family, friends, it's like, oh yeah, we have them, but they're not formally trained. They haven't seen hundreds, thousands. They haven't given those many hours in working with similar situations that you're going through. And so it's crucial because marriage does impact our day to day. And we know, like, if you just had a fight with your wife before you came here, you probably wouldn't be as chipper, or if you were, it would be a mask. And so you wouldn't be the best version of yourself right now because of that incongruence at your home and in your work life. And so professionals, if you see a counselor, they're able to help with that communication, with that processing. And even if the wife does not want to be a part initially of the financial discussion, we're going to learn why. Maybe she doesn't feel like she has a voice. Maybe you wouldn't have been able to get that out of her because she feels intimidated by you. Maybe you didn't even know she felt intimidated by you. And so professionals provide a safe place for you to come and to work through things so that really you can synergize and be on the same page, in agreement, and work together towards your goals.
Exactly. And just to dumb it down, anybody with little practice can cut hair, right? But nobody tries to cut hair. You just go to a hairdresser, right? That's a dumbed down example. Just like that, if you have any problems in marriage and if you want to have high confidentiality and you want to resolve it with a neutral third party, not going to friends is better. Much better is to go to a professional who can really isolate the pros, cons, and then talk it through.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel it's a big help. I don't know if the court even orders, like people going through a divorce, will they force them to go through marriage counseling, or it's not required?
It depends on if there's a mandate, like children or whatnot, for something to happen, but typically it's not required.
Okay.